Shalom everyone, and thank you for joining me in studying together Parashat Re'eh. The idea of Parashat Re'eh, to see, to watch, to look, to view, what does it mean in our lives? Because the Torah states, Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. See, today I'm giving you, or I place in front of you, a blessing and a curse. What does it mean, Re'eh? How can I see the blessing and the curse? I mean, the pasuk should have said, Anochi metzaveh noten lifnechem hayom bracha v'klala, or Shema, listen to me, I can give you a blessing, I can give you a curse. How can you see a blessing and a curse? So what I would like to do today with you is to try to understand this verse, but perhaps to even understand some other ideas that the Torah is trying to convey to us when the Torah uses the word re'eh, see. So the Or HaChaim says, צריך לדעת למה אמר לשון ראייה על הדברים. Which means the Or HaChaim asked our question, how can you say, see, I place in front of you today the blessing and the curse? How can I see it? Where it's on the table? So the Or HaChaim says the following, ראה אנוכי על דרך אומרם ז"ל, יכול אדם לעשות עצמו כמשה רבינו. The Or HaChaim quotes the Maimonides, the Rambam, who says that basically, you can be like Moshe, Moses. והוא מה שירם עליו, כי אליו יראו להידמות אליו כל הבא להיקרב לעבודת הקודש, עבודת השם. This is an amazing thing. The Or HaChaim says, you know what? When the Torah says to you, ראה אנוכי נותן לפניכם היום ברכה וקללה, the Torah basically says to you, you can see, I place in front of you a blessing and a curse. Not that you can see the blessing and the curse. It doesn't say here blessing and here a curse. It says, look around you. Look around you. You have leaders around you. There is a Moshe in your camp. There is an Aaron HaKohen. There is a Pinchas. There is a Yehoshua. There is Joshua. There is Caleb. Look around. Look at them. And look at yourself. And say to yourself, I can be them. Not that I'm going to change who I am, but they can be an aspiration and an inspiration to me that I can have the same talent and the same capabilities that they have. Oh, I need to work hard. That's true. This is re'eh, which means see the people who have the blessing and see the people who have the curse and choose. It might require of you to do a few things. But you need to what? You need to look around. You need to think highly on yourself. Not in terms of being hardy, but the idea is that don't look at yourself as someone small, but have aspirations to grow, to be like someone else. So that's what the Or HaChaim says. He suggests to us, re'eh, see, it worked. Moshe Rabbeinu was not born Moshe Rabbeinu. And I know there is always a question if leadership or capabilities or positions, is that something that people are born with it or people can acquire it? And I understand that there are proofs to every side of this discussion. However, we all know that we have plenty of examples of people who maybe were born to the right family, in the right time, in the right place, and disappointed us. And then we also have other people who, based on all the information that we have and all the analysis that we have, they shouldn't have any chance of becoming anything special, and they became very special. You know, the Talmud says, "Izaharu bivnei aniyim shemehem tetzeh Torah." Be careful, don't degrade poor people because the Torah can come out from them. We have this faith in people that they can change their path. Judaism was never, ever like a Greek tragedy that it's all predestined and you cannot deviate from it. We always believe that if you work hard on yourself first, you can change who you are, spiritually, but also in any other realm of life. So this Parsha begins with what? with a requirement, a demand of us to dream, to have a vision for ourselves, to look beyond what we see in our reality, to always look and to be inspired by others. It is a good suggestion always to read biographies of leaders and to see how they became leaders. How Churchill became Churchill. How Lincoln became Lincoln. How lehavdil Moshe Rabbeinu became Moshe Rabbeinu. How Rabbi Akiva, who came from nothing, poor, uneducated, unsophisticated, became one of the most luminary scholars of Judaism. People can change their ways. People can change who they are with one decision. It starts with what do you see? Do you see just the reality in front of you? Or do you see other things? Do you see beyond the reality that you face? The Kli Yakar says the following: ראה אנוכי נותן לפניכם היום ברכה וקללה. See, I place in front of you today a blessing and a curse. The Kli Yakar has an issue with that verse. And he says, I don't understand. ראה כמדבר ליחיד, לפניכם כמדבר לרבים. It says, look at the verse. It starts with what? ראה, see, which is in the singular term, which means you, one, singular. לפניכם, in front of you, it's plural. So how can you have in one pasuk in singular, 2 words later it's plural? So it's singular or plural? Says the Kli Yakar, לפי שאמרו רבותינו ז"ל, because our sages taught us, לעולם ידמה לאדם, every person needs to look at the כאילו היה כל העולם מחצה על מחצה, זכויות ועוונות. A person should always look at this entire universe like it's on a scale. 50% merits, 50% guilt. So 50-50. So, what should I do? Says the Kli Yakar, based on the Talmud in Kiddushin. עשה מצווה אחת, you, just the individual. You did one mitzvah, one act of kindness, one good deed. הכריע את עצמו ואת כל העולם לכף זכות. You are the one who determined the fate of the entire universe for good. וכך אמר על כל יחיד, ראה. And this is why the Torah says, ראה, you, every individual. When you are about to do something, you can't look only at yourself and how is that going to affect you. You need to see yourself as the leader of the universe. The entire world is on your little shoulders. One good deed, and you determine the faith and the fate of the entire humanity. ראה, שיראה בעין שכלו כי כל מעשיו יחזרו לפניכם לכולכם, which means ראה, singular, you need to see that everything you do influences the lifnechem, the plural, everyone. Meaning, you don't live for yourself. There is no such a thing to have a sticker on your car says, I don't care. What you do influence others. והזכיר עניין זה בפרשה זו המדברת מעניין הר גריזים והר עיבל, and he mentioned this idea that every singular, every individual needs to understand that he or she going to influence everyone else. Why? Because they are going to go into the land of Israel and they're going to have a covenant on the mountain of Gerizim and the mountain of Eival. כי שם נעשו כל ישראל ערבים זה בזה, ומצד הערבות רבים נתפסים בעוון היחיד. They became guarantors of each other. They became connected. To be a guarantor is not just to be there for someone. It's to really, almost like to replace someone else. You are taking his or her place. Which means, from that time on, you don't live life for yourself. You know, we, Am Yisrael, has a very, very special connection, bond, attachment to each other. And it's not only because persecutions, it's not only because of exile, it's because it's part of our DNA. When a Jew is in troubles, everyone tries to help. When we see that someone needs help, we are there for them. But what the Kli Yakar says is that in that pasuk, and this is, look how Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to prepare Am Yisrael for their next stage. If last week we spoke about the idea of transforming power into influence, influence into responsibility, now we are talking about what? Another component in that responsibility. The responsibility is not only for what I do. There is no such a thing, shalom alai nafshi, that I do only things for myself. I'm good. My family is good. That's fine. There is no such a thing. You are not good until your friend is also good. This idea is not Jewish guilt, it's Jewish responsibility. You cannot just live your life only for yourself. This is a very selfish life. This is a meaningless life. A true meaningful life is when you make sure that what you do does not only benefit you, but benefit Am Yisrael. Rabbi Ovadia Sforno, from the 16th century in Italy, says the following. What does it mean, re'eh, see? So he says, abita u're'eh. There is one thing, lir'ot, to see, to watch. Then there is the habit, to look into it. שלא יהיה עניינך על אופן הבינוני, כמו שהוא המנהג ברוב. This sentence, I think we all need to learn by heart. שלא יהיה עניינך על אופן בינוני, כמו שהוא המנהג ברוב. It says, when you look at things, don't look at them בינוני. What does it mean בינוני? בינוני is like intermediate, but basically he wants to convey to us a very strong message. When you see things that happens to you or to others, don't look at them in a very superficial manner. Don't look at them in just like without really deep analysis. Re'eh abita. Look at what's going on around you. Try to understand the lesson, not necessarily the reason, but the lesson. What can I do about what I experienced? How can I change my life and others as well in order not to repeat the same mistake, in order not to repeat the same experience, in order to better the experience? Most people don't really take to heart, don't even spend 5 minutes to analyze what's going on in their lives. And that's not good. One of the secrets of very successful people is that as busy as they are, they always find time to pause, to reflect, to process, to reevaluate. Because if you don't do it, you just run with your life. And whatever happens, happens. The Sforno says, don't do it. Don't do it. Re'eh, please see, look, take the time to look into things. Don't just have enough from superficiality. Look deeper. You have the power to look deeper. And then when you look deeper, you see many more details, much more information that will equip you to make a better decision. כי אומנם אנוכי נותן לפניכם היום ברכה וקללה, because today I place in front of you a blessing and a curse. הם שני הקצוות, it's the two extremes, a blessing and a curse. כי הברכה היא הצלחת יותר מן המספיק על צד היותר טוב. The Sforno says bracha is much more than just good. There is a wonderful book that calls from good to great. Many people, you ask them, how are you doing? I'm good. But you can be great. Sometimes good is the enemy of great. Because when things are good and going good, you don't think that they can go even better. And sometimes when things go worse, then you can become better. But good can be an enemy of greatness. Because it basically says, I'm good. And that leads to mediocrity, not greatness. Says the Sforno Re'eh, I'm giving you a blessing. A blessing is much more than just, I'm good. Blessing is plenty, is greatness. Ve'aklala, what is a curse? A curse is not just an unfortunate event. A curse is me'era machseret. It's something that is lacking. It's a deficiency. It's something that you're going to miss. שלא יושג המספיק ושניהם לפניכם להשיג כפי מה שתבחרו. It says you can choose what kind of life you want to have. A life of mediocrity, of beinoniyut, which means, things are good, they're good, or things of greatness. Yes, there is a leap of faith, because to live the good life and to inspire for greatness, there is a risk. But if you don't take that risk, you might never achieve greatness. To live the good, to analyze it, you need to go out of your comfort zone. It's tough, because we all live and we love to live in a life that we know exactly what we're going to do tomorrow and the next day, and things are secure and things are okay. But to step out of your bubble and to see and ask yourself some serious questions. Is that what I want to do? Is that the life that I would like to lead? Is that what I want to choose to do for the rest of my life, spiritually, financially, socially, everything? Or I'm going to ask myself those tough questions. I'm going to take the time to analyze my situation, to understand that I can influence others. Because don't forget, when you become great, the people around you become also, you change them as well. Those are the little circles and cycles that you influence. Says the Sforno. That's what I expect of you to do, says Hashem. Re'eh. I'm giving you these two extremes. Bracha ve'klala. Much more than good and much less than good. Choose. It's on us. That's the Sforno. In order to illustrate it, to illustrate the idea that a blessing is much more than just good, take a look at Vayizra Yitzchak Ba'aretz Ha'ih, that's from Bereshit, Perek Avav, Genesis chapter 26, verse 12. It says, Vayizra Yitzchak Ba'aretz Ha'ih, and Yitzchak planted on that year in his field, Vayimtza b'shanayim me'ah she'arim, and then he found this beautiful field with wells and water, Vayevarcheu Hashem. As you can see, it's much more than he just found one well and some water. He found plenty. So that's the Sforno. And with that in mind, I would like to show what can happen when you don't understand who you are and your potential. I want to talk to you and learn together about King Saul, who was the first king from the tribe of Benjamin over the nation of Israel. King Saul never seeked to be the king. The story is that he and his servant took his parents' donkeys, and the donkeys basically were lost. They tried to find them. They went to the prophet Samuel to try to ask him for help to find the donkeys. God told the prophet Samuel, look, this person, King Saul is going to come to you, and you shall tell him that you should appoint him to be the king. And also tell him, where are the donkeys? Samuel accepts Saul with warm and open arms, and he says to King Saul, you're going to become the king, first king over Am Yisrael. And also I'm telling you where the donkeys are, and I'm going to appoint you, to anoint you to be the king. When Saul came back home, he didn't say to anyone what the prophet told him. He was very humble, a wonderful person. Prophet Samuel loved King Saul. However, King Saul had a problem. One of his issues were he didn't see himself as a king. And one time, he just listened to the people instead of doing what was asked for him to do. And the prophet Samuel says the following to King Saul. Vayomer Shmuel, and Shmuel says to him, Alo im katon ata be'einecha. You might think about yourself as a, humble person, small person, nothing special. Rosh Shiftei Israel ata. You are the head of Am Israel. Vayimshachacha Hashem lemelech al Israel, and Hashem anointed you to be the king over Am Israel. Think about what Prophet Samuel says to Shaul. You are humble, and I appreciate it. You are humble, and this is a wonderful attribute. But being humble does not mean that you can allow others to dictate to you what to do, to be stepped on, and not to make a decision. If you were appointed and anointed to be the king over Israel, there is a reason for that. Hashem anointed you to be the king. You can't view yourself as just like one of the guys. You are the leader. And if you are the leader, you need to do something about it. You cannot be led. You need to lead. This is such an amazing rebuke that Shmuel gives to Saul, but also to all of us. Sometimes we like to sell ourselves short. We cannot influence things. We are not that powerful. We are not that strong. We are not that mighty. There are other people who have more than us. And what can I do? This is not what the Torah demands of each one of us. Re'eh, singular, every individual. He or she. You have the power to change. You have the power to influence. You have the power to lead. I don't care if you came from wealth or you came from poverty. I don't care if you came from a very highly sophisticated background or not. You have it in yourself. Be the best that you can be. There is this famous statement of Rabbi Zusha Me'anipoli, one of the famous rabbis, who says that after 120 years, when he goes up and he's being judged by God, and if God would ask him, he says, God is not going to ask me, Zusha, why you were not Moshe Rabbeinu, why you were not Moses, our teacher. He would ask me, why you were not Zusha? Did you maximize your potential? Or you try to hide behind fake humility? Humility is essential, but humility does not mean lack of ambition or lack of inspiration. There is always this very delicate balance between being humble. You must be humble, because if not, God forbid, it's going to lead us to corruption. But humility cannot lead you to some kind of a paralysis that say, I'm not worthy, I can't do anything, I can't influence anyone, I'm just going to do my thing. Because then you don't understand your power and that God's expectations of you, that you need to see the world half and half. One good deed that you do, one good decision that you do, you influence not only yourself, you influence everyone else around you. So that's what Shmuel says to Shaul, what the prophet Samuel says to King Saul. Im katonata beinecha. You think about yourself or of yourself as someone humble and small and not influential. You are the head of the Jewish people. You are the head of Am Israel. Hashem appointed you to be a king. Lead and don't be led. Obviously, like everything in Judaism, we have the flip side to it. In book of Shmuel, the book of Samuel, Aleph, he says the following. After King Saul lost his kingdom, basically, Hashem decided he's going to appoint someone else. He says to Prophet Samuel, go to Shai, who has boys, that one of them is going to be the king, but Hashem does not tell Prophet Samuel who is the king, who is the son who is going to be anointed as a king. So, Shai presents his children besides David. He doesn't think, Shai, David's father, does not think that his son David should be the king. Because he's the youngest and he's not that important. And he presents Prophet Samuel with all his children besides David. And Shmuel thinks, you know what? This one, Eliav, he is the one that should be. He's tall, he's handsome, he's strong, he's capable. Hashem says to Shmuel the following. Vayomer Hashem el Shmuel. And Hashem says to Samuel, Al tabet el mareu ve'el gova komato. Don't look at the way he looks and the fact that he's so tall. Ki me'astiu. I really dislike him. Ki lo asher yireh ha'adam. Ki ha'adam yireh la'einayim. Ve'Hashem yireh la'levav. Unlike you, Prophet Samuel, that you just look at the external appearance. I, Hashem, I can see into the heart of your hearts. I can see into the heart of people. And I know this is not the person. So who should be the person? So the prophet Samuel goes son by son, and Hashem says to him, no, not him, not him, not him, not him. So the prophet Samuel says, okay, no, as me. So who should be the king? So the prophet Samuel says to Shai, do you have another son? Do you have another child? So Shai says, oh, I have another child. You know, my youngest is like there with a flock. He's not here. He's not important. So Prophet Samuel says to him, bring him on, please. You know, it's none of those guys. So it might be the last son. So Shai sends someone to fetch David from the field. Vayishlach vayevieu. So he sent someone to bring David. V'hu admoni im yefei einayim. David is admoni. We call it in Hebrew gingy. A little bit of red hair. He's a redhead. Im yefei einayim has beautiful eyes, which is very interesting. We will talk about that in a minute. V'tov ro'in is a handsome boy. Vayomer Hashem, and Hashem says to Prophet Samuel, Kum meshacheu. Go ahead, stand up, anoint this person, anoint David. Ki zeh hu. He is going to be the king. What was so special with David? Says the Malbim. Says the Malbim. Yefe einayim v'tov ro'i. That he has beautiful eyes and he's tov ro'i. So I translate it as he's looking good, he's handsome. Says the Malbim, sheze more, it's come to teach you, al she'u chad ayun v'tov hamezeg. Meaning he has a tremendous ability to analyze things. He is very sharp, he understands things to their core. V'tov hamezeg, and he's very gentle, calm, balanced. King David, who definitely had many, I would say, challenges in his life, also some questionable actions. Still, one of the reasons he was chosen, he was able to penetrate an issue and to understand it. And why? Because if you go back to what we saw with the Sforno, he did not do what most of people basically live their lives by, beinoniyut, mediocrity. He did not like to be a mediocre, to be someone who just look at things and says, they are good, I'm not going to put any efforts into analyze them. The idea to look at things, not to have enough from just something very superficial, but to look into things. That's what helped David to become a king. I'll give you one example. When King David before he became a king, had this battle against Goliath. Everyone was terrified from Goliath. People of Israel wanted to run away. King Saul didn't know what to do. David comes along, and King Saul says to him, you know what, I just give you some of the armory to put on. King David puts this armory, and he's clumsy, he can't go with that. He says to King Saul, thank you very much, I'm not doing it. He looks at Goliath and he says to himself, and he says to Goliath, you come to me with a sword and an arm and everything, and I come to you b'shem Hashem tzvakot. I understand exactly the root cause of this war. It's not between you and me. It's between my God and you. You had the chutzpah. You dared to be a blasphemer and to badmouth God, my God, who is the greatest God of all. I will show you that I don't need much in order to destroy you. King Saul and everyone else saw Goliath, and they saw military against military, and when they saw Goliath, they said, we cannot defeat him. David, when he analyzed the situation, he says, I don't see Goliath might. I have God on my side. God is the most powerful entity in the world. I don't need to be afraid. The way you see things, the way you analyze things, can influence your decisions for life. And that's what King David. Yefe einayim v'tov ro'i. This idea of looking beyond the reality that we face, beyond the challenge that we are being challenged, beyond the experience that we experience, to know that things that happen have some kind of a time limit, and then there is something else, and we need to prepare for that something else. We need to look at things in a proper manner, in a healthy way, with inspiration, with faith, with hope. It comes from Abraham. When Abraham is walking with Isaac to bind Isaac on the altar, it says, "Vayom hashlishi," on the third day, "Vayisa Avraham et einav, vayar et hamakom merachok." On the third day, Avraham lifted his eyes and he saw the place from afar. Says the Midrash Bereshit Rabbah, our sage says in the Midrash, "Vayar et hamakom merachok." What does it mean that he saw the place from distance? Ma ra'a, what did he see? By the way, you see the word "see" with Avraham, and "re'eh," see in our Parsha. Ma ra'a, what did he see? Ra'a anan kashur bahar. He saw a cloud, which represents God's divine presence on the mountain. Amar, so he says, דומה שאותו מקום שאמר לי הקדוש ברוך הוא להקריב את בני שם. It seems to be that this is the place that God wanted me to bring my son there. If you remember, God never told Avraham where exactly to go. He told him, take your son, קח את בנך, את יחידך, אשר אהבת את יצחק, ולך לך אל ארץ המוריה, ועלהו שם לעולה על אחד ההרים אשר אומר אליך. Take your son, your beloved son, your Isaac, to a place that I will show you. In Har Moriah, it will be on one of those mountains, and I will show it to you. God does not give him really specific directions. And Abraham looks around. But how does he look? He lifts his eyes. We have a secret. We, Am Yisrael, has a secret. We don't lower our eyes. We don't look at the ground. We lift our eyes. There is a reality. It's not that we are delusionists. We are very much connected to reality, but we understand that there is a reality and then there is eternity. And because we are connected to eternity, we are connected to God himself, who is eternal. We understand that the reality that we face is just a reality for now. But there are many more layers that beyond this reality. We are not sure what will be the next stage or the next phase. Avraham says, Domeh, I think that this place is where God wants me to be. We have no certainties, but we are certain about one thing, that the reality that we face today It's not necessarily that the reality that we will face tomorrow, and we can change it by making a decision. Sometimes the decision will lead to a failure, but many times the decision will lead to success. But you need to lift your eyes. In Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, they described Abraham walking with Yitzchak and Ishmael and Eliezer to the Akedah, and it says the following: ביום השלישי, on the third day, הגיעו לצופים. They reached Mount Scopus. וכיוון שהגיעו לצופים, ראה כבוד השכינה עומד על גבי ההר, שנאמר ביום השלישי, וישא אברהם את עיניו וירא את המקום. And on the third day, Abraham saw the divine presence on the mountain. ומה ראה? What did he see? עמוד של אש עומד על הארץ ועד השמיים. So he saw a pillar of fire that stands on the mountain and reaches heavens. והבין אברהם שנתרצה הנער לעולה תמימה. And he understood that what? That Isaac is in the right place. אמר לישמעאל ולאליעזר, רואים אתם מאומה באחד מן הערים הללו? So Abraham says to the other boys who came with him, Eliezer and Ishmael, says to them, do you see what I see? Do you see this pillar of fire? אמרו לו, לא, we have no clue what you are talking about. What kind of a pillar of fire are you talking about? There is nothing there. וחשב אותם לחמור. אמר, הואיל ואין אתם רואים מאומה, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, עם הדומים לחמור. When Abraham heard that Ishmael and Eliezer do not see what he saw, he says to them, stay here with the donkey. Stay here. You are like a donkey. You don't lift your eyes. You just carry the burden. We can lift our eyes. When you can lift your eyes, the burden that you carry does not put you down, but rather you look up. It says this פורנו. מרחוק שלטה בו עינו לראות את המקום מרחוק. Abraham was able to see the place from afar, ברצון הקל יתברך כעניין ויראהו השם את כל הארץ. It's like Moshe Rabbeinu. Before he died, Hashem told him, go on the mountain, and he could see the entire land of Israel. How can you see the entire land of Israel? The idea is that sometimes you can basically have super way or super ability and capability to see. והבין שבאותו מקום יהיה מקום הזבח. Meaning, if you know how to use your ability to look and to see, you can see for afar. There is something beautiful that we have in our national anthem, Hatikva, hope. One of the sentences that we sing in that national anthem is, Ein leTzion Tzofia, an eye to Zion, always looking towards Zion. There is no any other nation in history that after being expelled and watching our temple destroyed, and after the destruction that came as a result of Bar Kokhba revolt at 135 CE, the destruction was 70 CE of the Second Temple, 135 CE, the destruction of the land of Israel after the revolt of Bar Kokhba revolt, continued always to have longing to Zion, to Jerusalem, to the land of Israel. For more than 2,000 years, there was this longing, always knowing that wherever we are, it's probably not a place for eternity, but our place, our hope, our future is right here. Ein leTzion Tzofia. The minute we lost sight of our ability to see, and we just became comfortable and confined in what is just good, and we lose sight of Zion and Jerusalem, there are problems. There are troubles. There is always these expectations of us to lift our eyes, not to let reality determine our future. The reality is just a step, it's just a stage, a phase in eternity. And how that eternity is going to look like? How is that future going to look like? It depends on us. How are we going to shape it? How are you going to shape it? Are we going to wake up tomorrow morning and to see the world half and half and look deeply first and foremost in yourself and ask yourself some deep questions? Am I good or can I be great? And am I happy in who I am, or I can do other things that can change my life and the life of others? Let's not be Beinoniyim. Mediocrity is not for us. Beinoniyut, just like good, it's not a good thing necessarily. Sometimes it's like some kind of a peace of mind, but that should not be the aspirations of our lives. Our aspirations of our lives should be bracha, greatness. Because with greatness, we have more responsibilities. With greatness, we can influence more people. With greatness, we can create an incredible state and to fulfill our dual mission. Ki beitzcha kikare lecha zera, that we will build an incredible nation right here and to also be light unto the nations. Thank you.